Welcome to Caregiving Cafe, everybody. I hope you're doing well. And today we have Dura Sims as a co-facilitator, the usual co-facilitator, and happy to have her supporting Caregiving Cafe and welcoming the other family caregivers in the audience. Today we will hear from Regina Kubelka, representing the Alzheimer's Association as an educator, who will talk to us about caregiver wellness and other tips to manage your caregiving, plus making sure that you are taking good care of yourself. So welcome, Regina. Thank you for being here. And now let me see if I can switch this to you. Okay. All right. You hopefully will be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just fine.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
So my name's Regina, and as Lynn said, I'm a community educator, and I love giving the Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body presentation. It aligns with all the things that I value in life, and so those are wellness and community, getting support from others when you need it. I love all of those things. I will tell you a little bit more as we go along about my personal story and how I came to this point. But I'll let you know now that I am a health coach, and I focus on brain health. So that's my niche and my passion. So when Lynn asked me to speak today, she also asked me to put together some special tips for caregivers for you all that are attending today. And I pondered this for quite a while, and I couldn't quite, land on anything super special that I wanted to talk about, because I know you've probably heard a lot of the same tips over and over, right? And so I wanted to, for you to have something to walk away with that felt a little bit more like stress relief, right? Instead of just tips that are a to-do list. And so I know that, when you're a caregiver, it can be very frustrating, and there's just a lot of stress. So I wanted to create something that could help with that aspect. So I'll go through the presentation and the slides, and then at the end, I have a meditation that I'm actually going to share with you guys. And then at the end, I'll provide the link in the chat so that you can have it at home whenever you need it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started with the Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body presentation. So just give me one moment. And Lynn, if you will help me out, I sometimes, it's sometimes a little tricky whenever I start the presentation, where sometimes, the viewing is not quite right. And so if you would shout out and unmute if there's anything at all weird happening with the video or the audio. And if you do that, then I can probably adjust it as I can as I'm going along.
Sure.
So just let me know if there's any hiccups there.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and see if I can play this slideshow. Let's see. Let's see here. Don't worry. I'm sorry?
Oh, I heard a voice, but I don't know who it was.
Okay, so there's the slideshow. Can everybody see the first slide? It says Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and get started. So this is tips from the latest research, and this presentation is developed by the Alzheimer's Association. So today we're going to talk about not only why it's important to take care of ourselves as we age, but also how we can pass along tips to our friends and family that will support their brain health too. And another thing we'll go over as you know, a little bit later is we'll talk also about the latest evidence around lifestyle habits as a way to reduce risk for dementia. So dementia is an umbrella term that is used to describe a condition that causes changes to a person's memory, reasoning, and thinking. The terms Alzheimer's and dementia are used interchangeably. And while they're related, they are a little bit different. There are various types of dementia, and each has unique causes and symptoms. The most common is Alzheimer's, and it affects over 6 million people in the US alone. And as you look at the graphic here, on the far left, there's Alzheimer's disease, and that makes up 60 to 70% of dementia cases. And then there are other dementias like vascular, frontotemporal, Lewy body, and other dementias like Parkinson's. And a little bit about my personal story. My mom lived with Alzheimer's for 10 years, and she passed away in 2017. And when I saw her decline, and my father was also declining around the same time, it got me really curious and really interested in, well, you know, what can I do to try to avoid some of the challenges that they're both having? And so I just started to soak up and learn as much as I could. And through that, I found a lot of information about what, you know, we can do to reduce our risk. And it felt very empowering. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to share with others. And so that's really what led me to health coaching today. So there are a few risk factors for Alzheimer's that we can't control, like our family history, our age, and our genes. However, the most current research points to the probability, which is a really strong word, that our lifestyle choices have a direct influence on our risk for Alzheimer's and other dementias. We can start by adopting habits to potentially improve our overall health. And these habits may help keep our bodies and our brains healthy as we age. What's also exciting, I think, is how we can then steer our loved ones toward those same healthy habits. So they say that what's good for the body is also good for the brain. And taking that a step further, what's good for the brain is good for our hippocampus, and that's the memory center of our brain. Let's talk a little bit about the heart-brain connection. So the heart and brain are very interrelated. They say that what you do to protect your heart, like maybe heart healthy eating and exercise, things like that, can also help your brain. And, you know, it's all about that adequate blood flow. So the brain needs that oxygen and adequate blood flow to work its best. In fact, 25% of blood from every heartbeat goes to the brain. And this is why they say cardiovascular health is so important. In fact, in some people, a low pulse for a long period of time, it can begin to mimic symptoms of dementia. And we'll talk a little bit more as we go along about conditions like this that we can treat now that might be mimicking symptoms of dementia. And those are good to know because it's very treatable. And we'll talk about a few more as we go along the presentation. But as a personal experience, my aunt, she actually had been on, blood pressure medication for many, many years. And, she had been on the same dosage and the same medication for a long time. And then over time, something wasn't working right. Basically, her medication needed to be adjusted. It was dropping her pulse too low. She was starting to have fainting spells. And at the same time, she was also having some short-term memory issues. And so what they found out was once the doctor adjusted that and they realized that was the source of the problem, she began to improve. So that's one example of something treatable that you can look at now that might be mimicking symptoms of dementia. So the main idea that I want to get across with this slide is that dementia is not a normal part of aging, and there's currently no cure, unfortunately. So let's dive deeper into what we can do to reduce risk. So taking care of yourself as you age has 4 pillars: cognitive activity, physical health and exercise, social engagement, and diet and nutrition. So did you know that our risk for dementia is actually cumulative? That means that over decades, starting as early as our 30s, our brain is seeing poor lifestyle choices as quote unquote assaults to our brain. And our bodies are amazing machines and they're really resilient. So for a long time, we can repair and regulate after those quote unquote assaults. However, over 10 or 20 years, those add up. And that's what determines our risk where lifestyle is concerned. So even in your early ages of 30s and 40s, it's never too early to, begin paying attention to those choices, or even just begin encouraging your family members that are in those younger ages to begin thinking about those choices. So let's dive into physical health and exercise. So they say that, that blood flow, which we talked about in the heart-brain connection, that is, definitely part of what's happening when you give your body regular and vigorous exercise. So in that way, we can reduce our risk of cognitive decline. And next, we're going to watch a short video about the advantages and how to get started with exercise.
It's surprising how you can easily build up habits of just taking 15 to 20 minutes out of your day to go down, hit the treadmill, and just do it. Just do it. Just get on it, put my headphones on, and just walk at a nice brisk pace for myself, build up a quick heartbeat, quick sweat. And it's amazing how quickly I can go from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And then over time, 30 minutes, and over time, 40 minutes. Before you know it, you're up to 45 minutes of walking, and even at a higher incline and also at a higher pace. And again, it's all about incorporating habits in the choices that we make.
So Lynn, can you let me know, were y'all able to see that video and hear it?
Yeah, we saw it. It was a little bit kind of choppy, but it was fine.
Okay, good.
We heard it.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So one thing that I wanted to point out that I think is just a really interesting little factoid is that there's been studies that have shown where they take a scan of someone's brain while they're exercising. And what they found was that your hippocampus, which is that memory center of our brain that we mentioned earlier, it actually lights up on these brain scans during exercise. And I think that's very telling, and it's such a neat thing to be able to see how just the act of movement is really stimulating that memory center of our brain. So, let's see. So, okay, here are some things, that we can do to start increasing our physical health and exercise. Well, by all means, most importantly, you have to do something that you enjoy, right? Whether that's gardening, dancing, walking with your dog, swimming, whatever it is, dancing in your living room. I know Lynn likes to do that.
And
You
it.
know, right. You just have to find something that gets you moving that you enjoy. If going to the gym is not your thing, try something else, right? And if you're not already in a regular routine of exercise, just start out small and go along until increase as you feel stronger. Even if it's a 10-minute walk, no problem. And in fact, there's some research that shows that if you walk after you eat a meal, that can even be more beneficial because it kind of regulates blood sugar. And we'll talk a little bit more later about how that ties into brain health too. But you want to just make sure you're getting your heart rate up. And my rule of thumb on that is just walk, like if you're walking, walk at a brisk pace to where maybe imagine that you're late to an appointment and you're kind of, it takes a little bit more effort to catch your breath. And maybe if you had a friend walking next to you, you'd have to take an extra breath in between sentences. So that would be just kind of a good rule of thumb that you're getting your heart rate up. And by all means, if you have any underlying health conditions, it's never a bad idea to check with your doctor before you start. Some other things that we can do are stop smoking. We know that that is directly tied to brain health. Avoid excess alcohol, get adequate sleep, avoid head injury. That's another one that we know for sure is tied to brain health. Manage stress, treat depression, and get those regular doctor checkups. One that I wanted to point out here is sleep. So good restorative sleep is such an important part of our healthy lifestyle. Did you know that sleep is the time of the day, and the only time of the day actually, that our brain is doing its housekeeping? So during sleep, our brain is literally cleaning away the plaques and tangles that you may have heard of that are present in brains of Alzheimer's patients. So getting 7 to 8 hours is the recommendation per night. And just be careful because they say that 6 hours of sleep or less a night is actually considered sleep deprivation. And so we want to give our brains the chance to get that housekeeping done each night, right? So that's a real important part of our healthy lifestyle.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, regarding sleep, I've heard
Yeah.
many different opinions.
Okay.
So if you get, let's say, 6 hours of sleep
Yeah.
at night, and if you take a 1 hour nap in the day during the day, does
Yeah.
that help at all in any way?
Yes. Yeah, it's all considered like going into your bank account, right? It's like all a deposit into your bank account, even if you're getting naps. Those are, I think, very beneficial, and it all counts.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mhm. Yeah. And also I should point out that, that's not meant to be a scare tactic. So like if, everybody has one night a week, let's say at least, where, you just didn't sleep that well for whatever reason. Sometimes we can't even pinpoint why. And then, that's okay. That happens. But what you want to be looking for is like these long periods where you're really just sleeping like less than 6 hours a night for a long time. That's where you really want to like get focused in on what's really causing that. And sometimes it's just maybe a matter of taking notes. you know, maybe it's a matter of talking it through with somebody, like what's happening there. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so now we're going to talk about diet and nutrition. So we know that what's good for our heart can also be good for our brain, and nutritious food is the fuel for our brain.
Oh dear.
So let's go ahead and we're gonna listen to another short, let's see, hold on, I'm getting lost on my, yep, we're gonna listen to another short video about diet and nutrition.
Foods that have been shown to lead to healthy aging would be fruits and vegetables, and in particular, green leafy vegetables and berries, as well as limited intake of high-fat food items that you get through high-fat dairy and cheese and red meats, and also healthy vegetable oils. So this would be olive oil would be a good example, have been shown to reduce your risk of heart disease as well as dementia.
I'm going to back up just a smidge. I think we forgot this one slide. Yep. Okay, so there, back to health and exercise. There's also some numbers that you want to keep track of when you go to your annual visit with your doctor, and that's blood pressure, blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. And I took the training with the Alzheimer's Association yesterday for our new 10 Healthy Habits for Your Brain program. And one of the things they mentioned was blood pressure, and how taking blood pressure medication, if your blood pressure runs high, is actually a way to reduce risk for dementia. So that's important. If they specifically said that that top number, the systolic number, if it is at 130, that's considered a little high for brain health, and that you want to try to keep that down. So that's something that, you know, your doctor will definitely help you track. But just so we know the numbers that we're looking for, you know, it can be very empowering. And then another that you want to keep track of is blood sugar. So those are important. There's a couple of markers that you test. There's the fasting blood sugar, and that's pretty typical with your annual blood work. But there's also one called the A1C, and that's how they measure your risk for diabetes. And so sometimes you have to ask for that one if it's something that is important to you. It's important to me. Every 6 months, I actually ask my doctor to check my A1C, because I know that there's a direct link between brain health and diabetes. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind as well, if you wanted to be very, very proactive. Okay, so now back to diet and nutrition. I just wanted to mention, you know, a couple of diets that they recommend, and then some things that we can avoid for better brain health. So the things that we can avoid are saturated and trans fats. We want to eat less processed foods and more whole foods. They talked about that in the training yesterday as well. They talked about less deep fried food and less unhealthy fast food, but also like if you're looking for, say, a cookbook that you can buy that is a specific way of eating, I won't call it a diet necessarily, I'll call it a way of eating. The Mediterranean is very recommended for brain health. And then there are some alternative like variances of that diet called Mind diet and DASH diet. And any three of those, they say, are really good for brain health. And then this slide talks about vitamins, and the slide is a little bit not up to date, but because we have a really recent study that just didn't make it on the slide just yet. But what they say is that just adding a simple daily multivitamin can actually help reduce your risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. And I like pointing that out because, you know, that's so simple that we can all do that if we're not already doing it. It's certainly not going to hurt us. And so, you know, a daily multivitamin, no problem. And then cognitive activity, that is another pillar for taking care of ourselves as we age. Keeping our mind active forms new connections among our brain cells. It encourages that blood flow to the brain that we're talking about a lot today. And let's go ahead and watch another short video.
One of the most interesting factors is cognitive stimulating activities, which basically for us just means mental processing of information. It can be from a book, it can be from the radio, it can be a magazine, it can be from a lecture, it can actually be from watching TV. All of these things require processing information. And the old adage of, you know, use it or lose it is actually something that turns out, at least from the observational data, to look like it's true. So numerous studies now have shown that being more engaged in cognitively stimulating activities is actually good for maintaining cognition. And it's true in late life, and it's true in early life. And so what we recommend is that you start early, and if you're already late, start now.
So let's talk a little bit about what we can do to boost cognitive activity. What they say is just try to choose something that's challenging for you and it feels a little bit hard, but at the same time, it's really important that you enjoy it. So some kind of a puzzle, even reading, learning something new, like a skill or a hobby, maybe taking an online class, all of those things could be challenging, but yet enjoyable. And then our last pillar is social engagement. And what we found out is that, you know, during when the pandemic started, a lot of people were more isolated. They were getting less social time. And that can feel really kind of icky, but it can also lead to depression too. And sometimes we have to keep in mind that depression can mimic symptoms of dementia. So that's another one of those treatable things that we can look at now and not let it go on and on thinking it could be dementia. So what can we do to get more of that social time? Well, we can visit with our friends and family, of course, and we can stay involved in our community, like maybe volunteering or joining a group or a club. You know, Caregiver Cafe, of course, is a wonderful way to do that. And any kind of opportunity where you're enjoying yourself and getting around others is just really good for your brain health. So let's talk about putting all four of the pieces together. Let's watch another short video from a brain health expert on this.
Recently, at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, there was a study reported of the results of a large clinical trial that was done in the Scandinavian countries. And in this trial, they took half the people in the trial and they adjusted their exercise level, their diet, their social engagement, and their mental stimulation. They developed programs for each one of those variables, changed all of those for the people that were in the test group, and the control group just lived as they had been. And what they found was that the test group had less conversion to mild cognitive impairment, which is a preliminary stage of Alzheimer's disease. To my mind, one of the things that this has done is it's changed the force of recommendation that we might make around the benefit of these interventions for prevention of Alzheimer's disease or for brain health. And the fact is that I think it's moved it from possibly exercise, diet adjustments, social engagement, mental stimulation are useful to probably. And that's a big change and makes it easier for people to make those kinds of adjustments for the benefit of their future health.
So speaking of those healthy habits for your brain, the Alzheimer's Association has officially launched this new program. It's a new campaign, and it's called 10 Healthy Habits for Your Brain. And this is all based on evidence. These are the 10, there are a lot of healthy habits, and they talked about this in our training yesterday, that of course are going to be good for us in our overall health. But you know, Alzheimer's Association is all about where's the evidence, and that's where they want to focus. And these are the 10 that they have enough scientific evidence from studies that they can now say these 10 for sure help your brain. So just moving through these a little bit, they're protect your head, you know, wear a helmet, do whatever you can at all costs to avoid falls in the home and, you know, anywhere. Like that's, especially as you age, like that's a really important thing. Like look at your home environment now, while you can make those changes little by little that make your home safer. Even if it's just like replacing an old ratty rug on the floor that you sometimes trip on, just get it out of there, right? So those are some things that we can look at now to avoid head injury. Be smoke free. We all know smoking's not good for us, but it's especially not good for our brain. Get moving. We talked about the benefits of physical exercise. It lights up the hippocampus. It improves blood flow to the brain. It helps our heart. So that's a win-win-win. Challenge your mind. We talked about, you know, learn online and ongoing, or I'm sorry, just ongoing learning. Control your blood pressure, manage diabetes. We mentioned, you know, about making sure you stay on top of your blood sugar numbers each year. Sleep well. We mentioned, you know, that's a really important part of how our brain does its housekeeping. Stay in school, you know, you just want to keep those wheels turning in your mind. And eating right. We had some great tips for diet and nutrition. The Mediterranean diet is always very much recommended. And then maintaining a healthy weight. So one of the things they talked about was how diet, exercise, and sleep are all super important for brain health. And what they're doing is also helping us maintain a healthy weight. And we do know that midlife obesity, which is obesity that might be occurring between the ages of 45 and 65, that would be considered midlife. We know that there is a direct link there to some increase in, you know, risk for dementia there. So while we're talking about 10 healthy habits, I wanted to also point out something really interesting. So right now you might have already heard about it, but it's been going on for a few years. There's a study, and it's a huge study happening right now called the US Pointer Study, and it's going to be wrapping up in 2025. But one of the things, since we're talking about healthy habits, that it is actually measuring is the efficacy of using a health coach for reducing risk through lifestyle choices. And so there was a separate study published recently that did show that getting the support of a health coach offered a 30% improvement in cognitive testing with those participants. So I mention this because it'll be really interesting to see what they find in this US Pointer study in relation to, you know, the support of a coach. And that's supposed to be released, we hope, in 2025. So let me go ahead to the next slide. that kind of brings us to what can we do today to begin and get those little small steps toward the better brain health that we know can happen. So remember, it takes only a focus of just one of these modifiable risk factors that we've talked about today to begin reducing risk. And it's something that we can go ahead and just start today, whether that's taking a multivitamin, whether it's a 10-minute walk. There's so many things that we can go in and assess our home for fall risk. So you just pick one thing and we can just go ahead and start. And it's really and truly the things that they're recommending, like with diet, social activity, exercise, and sleep. Really and truly, I feel like what it's all about is increasing our quality of life. Like anytime you can socially engage with your friends and family more, eat a really good meal, get a really great night of sleep, you're really just increasing your quality of life. And I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't want to do that, right? And so we can take some comfort in knowing that just by doing those things, we're actually reducing our risk for Alzheimer's as well. So I wanted to also go through a few of the resources that the Alzheimer's Association offers, and that this is all for free. So they have a 24/7 helpline. The number here will direct you to clinicians that can answer any questions you have about dementia and Alzheimer's, getting the care you need, getting the care your loved one needs, those types of things. There are virtual programs. If you go to the website, it's alz.org, and there's just lots and lots on there to go and see what might interest you. They're all free and they're all online. There is a community resource finder. That's at communityresourcefinder.org. There's ALZ Connected, and this is kind of like a chat room for anyone who's a caregiver, someone living with the disease, someone who is just concerned about their loved one. There's an Alzheimer's Navigator that is a free online tool just for caregivers. And then what I wanted to do, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for a minute. Hello again, everybody. And I'm happy to take some questions, but I also wanted to lead us through my special little meditation that I created for us today. And it won't take much time. It's just a few minutes.
That would be great.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions before I begin the meditation?
I'll think of something afterwards. After I'm ready.
Yates, do you have a question? I thought you might have been muted. No? Okay.
Laughing at Lynn.
No worries. No worries.
Everybody's doing it, so that's okay.
Okay. So, shall I go ahead and start it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So that I don't forget to do this, I'm going to go ahead and share my info here, and it's got a link to this PDF version of the meditation. And what you can do is click the link to download that, and you can have that at home and use this as a tool for you whenever you need it. And then there's also a link to a workshop that I'm hosting next Wednesday. It's free and then online. And I'll send you that info in the chat too.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could put both links on the chat, that would be great.
I will. I'm going to put it
I
all
signed up for it, by the way.
I saw that.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so there you go. There's my info. There's the meditation link where you can download it. And then there's the workshop where you can just read more about that and register if you'd like to. But I'll go ahead and share my screen on the meditation. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
It says loving kindness meditation. Okay, cool. So let me go like that. Okay, cool. So what I wanted to do is just give you a tool where, like, on those days where you're just feeling a lot of emotions, you're maybe feeling a lot of stress, maybe you're feeling just really frustrated for whatever reason. Maybe you're having some communication challenges with your loved one. I know that's very common. This is a way where it's super simple, it's super quick and easy, and you can literally just use this whenever you need it. So the idea behind it is we're paying focus to our loved one that is offering a way to connect with them, send them benevolent intentions for their well-being. And, you know, if we're feeling like it's challenging to connect with them that day, this would be a way to do it. And this can be done when, say, like they're taking a nap, they're eating their meal, they're having some quiet time of some kind, and then you have a chance to have a few minutes of your own quiet time. So by sending them benevolent and intentions and well wishes, you're actually boosting your own mental health as well. You're nurturing yourself. You're kind of practicing a love thy neighbor as thyself intention. And another thing that you're doing is you're kind of acknowledging that beauty that of existence that we all share. It's like that very basic underlying beauty of just the fact that we're all here on this earth existing together. So what you would want to do is you would want to start out by sitting in a comfortable, quiet space. This would just be a gift to yourself, a few minutes of alone time in a quiet space. And what you want to do, there's a couple of steps. So what you want to do is you want to begin by offering loving kindness to your loved one. And then once we go through that, you'll then direct your loving kindness to yourself. So you want to always give yourself the care and love that you would give someone else, right? So once you get in a comfortable, quiet space, you want to chant, and you can do this silently or out loud. It's up to you. But you want to just kind of like repeat and chant these 3 phrases. And so you have your loved one in mind, you're sending them well wishes, and you say to yourself, may you be full of peace. May you be happy. May you be safe. And you repeat this 3 times. As you go along, you can close your eyes if it feels very meditative to you. And you send love and well wishes to your loved one. And, you know, as you go along, if you try this a few times, you might come up with your own phrases that are really appropriate for your current situation. And those, you know, of course, you can change as you want. And then once you've gone through and repeated those 3 times, the next step would be to direct your loving kindness to yourself. And you would say to yourself, may I be full of peace. May I be happy. May I be safe. And you anchor to the present moment that way as you slowly repeat those 3 phrases 3 times. And you would be sending love and well wishes to yourself in that moment. And so I invite you to use this meditation as a tool. Whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, you know that you can take this quiet time whenever you need it. So that is the meditation. And I hope that's something that you feel can be helpful for you in the future.
I'm glad that you did both versions of our loved one and ourselves.
Yes,
We're both important.
that's right. Yeah, we all need the love, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. That's all I have for today.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Regina, I love any questions from anybody at this moment. Questions, comments, anything at all about the presentation?
I enjoyed it. I have to say your slow and tone was very calming too.
Yeah.
It's nice to listen to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was going to just say, do you want to just take a moment, like a minute or so, just to tell us about First Wellness?
Sure. Yeah,
Because it goes
have
along with, taking care of yourself and caregiver wellness. So,
that's right. Yeah, so I have a link there to my website, and one of the things I really enjoy is caregiver stress relief and support in that way. I did a lot of that work when I was just starting out with my student coaching, and I really enjoyed that. And, probably because I can offer a lot of empathy there, because, I watched my mom live through Alzheimer's for 10 years. So I know what it's like, and I've been there, and it's hard. So sometimes as a caregiver, when we get into that world of caregiving, we can sometimes lose perspective. Like all of a sudden, most of our attention goes to someone else. And, sometimes there's even feelings of guilt to focus on ourselves. And so that's one thing that I had some really good success with working with caregivers in the past, where, we kind of reframe that a little bit, where we all need that nourishment. So that's kind of where coaching can help if you're feeling a little bit depleted in that way. And then, like we talked about the healthy habits, sometimes we just need a little extra support. There's nothing wrong with that. And so the coaching is a way to offer guidance, empathy, and accountability, right? It's all about getting those routines in place. And sometimes it can be difficult, especially if you have a lot of other things going on in your life. And so that's where having another support person can be helpful.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any comments from anybody? I just want to say, just because my dad, who had this major heart attack about 19 years before he passed away from cancer, which we really thought the heart was going to take him, but no, it was another surprise.
Mm.
So we started reading all the labels, what is in this food. And back in the 70s, I believe they weren't required. So you would just eat whatever, right? And I love food, let me tell you. So good food, as in tasty food. And tortilla chips and salsa are still, and guacamole are still probably my favorite. But I started paying attention to what I was eating. And that saying back then was, you are what you eat. And I thought that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Okay, so I'm a pork chop. I mean, come on, but truly, um, and you truly are. Now, fast forward, what, 50 years from that time. Wow, it's been a long time. I'm seeing the ramifications of eating or not eating well, meaning in a healthy way. And eating healthy doesn't mean you eat like unsavory, unpalatable, boring food. There are so many ways of preparing delicious food that is healthy for you. The other time where it really hit me in the face is when I was pregnant with my son. I was feeding him whatever I was eating. So if I had 5 donuts for breakfast and 3 burgers for lunch, and who knows what nachos for dinner. Well, that's what I was feeding him. And that's when it really, really hit. Wow, what I eat does matter, because I don't want my child to start out his life with, I mean, those are not healthy foods. Delicious, maybe, yes. But so it just made me aware of that. And so, thanks to my sister and my dad's heart attack, if you can even say that, we really got into healthy eating with macrobiotics and seaweed. And my dad said, yuck, you know, but but we, to this day, I mean, they had given him a prognosis of 5 years. He lasted 19. It's because he changed not just his food. He stopped drinking just, when he would come home from work, one beer. He always exercised and walked, but it was the eating much better and de-stressing. He was type A personality, big coffee drinker. He gave up alcohol and caffeine. Not that he was a boozer, really. He, social drinking, it was the thing, back in the 60s, 70s. So, but it made a huge, huge difference. And all of us, my brother, my sister, and I, cook really tasty meals, even though they're healthy, and have a lot of friends who also have a very healthy way to eat. And it's delicious. So, and the other thing I was going to say, you can take a very healthy item of food like vegetables, and if you deep fry them and eat them with ranch dressing, well, or a cheese dip. I mean, once in a while, we got to live, right? But think about what you're putting in your body, and that, when I start really thinking about what I'm putting in there, and it just changed my way of looking at food. I still enjoy a donut, a cake, key lime pie, you name it, but not every day. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. So that's how we eat at home now. Pretty healthy.
I agree. Chips and salsa is my favorite food.
Yeah, it's a food group.
I love it. And of course, you can't go wrong with guacamole. Oh my God. Just give
yeah.
But but Lynn is right. Like, it's just all about balance. It doesn't mean you can't eat a little bit of your favorite food once in a while, but I think there's like a 80-20 rule where 80% of your diet could be considered healthy, and then the other 20% is like maybe a balanced way to kind of, have your favorite foods that maybe aren't considered as healthy.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it.
And that's why I eliminate the word diet, except for Mediterranean diet, that kind of thing, it from my vocabulary, along with should. I don't like that, or worry. Those, I don't use those words, because diet is such a limiting word, and who wants to feel that way? So instead I choose, foods, but thinking about them first, so lifestyle is really more what I like. So, but anyway, just throwing that out there.
That's a good mindset.
Yes, I like it. And sushi is part of that, seaweed, sushi. Oh, yes. Love it. So, anyway, anybody else have any comment, or what do you do to stay fit and healthy, and to, if you feel great, that's so, so important. What makes you feel good? Because the fact that you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy. And the fact that you might, have some extra pounds doesn't necessarily mean that you have terrible health. So it's about taking care of yourself. All right, any other comments? Okay, then I'm going to stop the recording, or one of us is going, let me see if I can do that. Thank you, Regina, for sharing all the great information. All right, and I look forward to seeing you at Burst Wellness tomorrow.
Thank you.